Hello and welcome to day 13 of Black History Month, 28 Days of Black Excellence. My name is Faith Moore and I am your host. This evening, we're going to be learning about a gentleman named, I can't tell you his name yet. He's from the world of science. Who was this man? He was a space scientist, a physicist, engineer, and inventor. His inventions helped us to see things that are out of this world. His name is George Robert Carruthers. Born October 1st, 1939, in Cincinnati, Ohio, he was a happy little boy. He had a father who was a civil engineer, and he encouraged his son in the sciences. So this young boy, at age 10, he invented his first telescope. When his father passed away a few years later, with his family, George moved to Chicago, Illinois, and continued with his science pursuits, entering and winning science fairs, doing a rocket club and going to museums and just filling his days and his mind with scientific things. He studied engineering at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana campus, which I've actually been to, which is very uncanny. And he studied aerospace engineering and astronomy. Got his master's in nuclear engineering, a PhD in aeronautical and astronautical engineering at the University of Illinois as well in 1964. And he ended up working in the U.S. Naval Research Lab for the rest of his career for 38 years. His telescope and image converter were used to identify molecular hydrogen in space, and his ultraviolet camera spectrograph was used by the Apollo 16 during its flight to the moon. Here is a shot of that such thing. Now, science is not something that I specialized in school personally. I was very much the artsy child. I was in the choirs and did music and did painting art and such. And so what was so interesting to me about this man's story is not that he was also an artist, but that when he was in school, he actually didn't perform very well in elementary school. He got bad grades in math and in physics. And if you can imagine, those are the things that a scientist absolutely needs, that a physicist absolutely needs. And so interesting that he had challenges in those particular areas, but at the same time, he won in 3 separate instances in science fairs while he was a child. So it's curious to think about, what does this say? What does this say about our capacity, about our how we see ourselves, how we view ourselves, and our abilities? Because you can be very strong in one area and not at all in another. And depending on which one you weigh more heavily, that can change your perspective on your entire sense of confidence and esteem. So I just thought it was remarkable that even though he had challenges in those areas that were so close to the sciences that he wanted to do and was still in love with, he later on did become a physicist, even though physics was a challenge for him. So what's interesting also about him is that he decided that he would give back, especially later in life after he had accomplished and done all of these studies and be able to help out the scientific community worldwide, but particularly in the United States. He spent most of his career and life in Washington, D.C. He created a program to allow high school students to work at the Naval Research Lab, and it was a Science and Engineers Apprentice Program, SEAP, I think it was called. He also was teaching local science teachers, the DCPS, about Earth and science, just like how those went together. He was at Howard University and he taught there as of 2002. And he got a number of awards. Now let's see if I want to show you another image here. So this is him with the scientists, and you can see how young he is. Let me stretch this out a little bit. You can see how young he was in this shot. And if I can stretch it, and it won't go over. So goodbye, big one. And you can see these men just kind of like, what is this? And so he was the expert on site, and he was able to pass on his knowledge, which is fantastic. And he was awarded and recognized for his work. And there we go. By Barack Obama and his administration. He received the National Medal of Technology and Invention from that administration, an honorary doctorate for engineering from Michigan Technological University, and the National Inventors Hall of Fame for all of his work in science and engineering. Ultimately, a very remarkable man in a field that I would never dip my toe into. I tried, and I will leave that to the experts like George Robert Carruthers. So, what can you do? What can we do today in the spirit of George Robert Carruthers? I know that my challenge will not be anywhere in the sciences. I know that for a fact. But I think that story that I mentioned, where he found where his sweet spot was and didn't let the things that he couldn't do weigh him down and lower his impression of what he could bring to the world. That's what I would take from it. I don't know. I challenge you to find something in this story as well, and for you to be the first, be the best, be the one that finds your lane and excels in it. Be the one we talk about for years to come. What in the story stood out for you? Share your comments in the comments below. Today, we learned about Mr. George Robert Carruthers, a great scientist, physicist, who was revolutionary in his invention that allowed us to see the world from the outside, from the moon. If you enjoyed the program, hit the like button or share, and we look back so we can look forward to a better world. Wherever you're watching from, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, I'm Faith Moore, and I thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.